Welcome to Banega Swasth India podcast. Our focus this season is One Health, One Planet, One Future. Our aim is health for all and leaving no one behind, because Swasth Bharat is Sampann Bharat. I'm Ambika Singh Kama, and today we will be talking to Zarina Screwvala, co-founder of the Swades Foundation, about how access to water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities can empower women to break the gender bias and, by extension, benefit their families. Zarina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ambika. It's my pleasure, really, on behalf of all of us at Swades.
Zarina, you all have been working, on ground. When I talk about Maharashtra, Raigad, simple question, Swades Foundation, how has it really impacted the life of women? Because this whole conversation is about breaking the gender bias. We are going to be talking about how water accessibility affects women, how wash affects them. But tell us about your work and how has it impacted the life of women across?
So I think, Ambika, what I can touch on here, because we're going to be talking a lot about water and toilets, which really do definitively impact women, in fact, a little bit more than men, though it impacts everyone. But one of the things I'm very proud of is our overall at Swades, we believe in Swa se Bane Des. And over there, what we've done is our village development committees is a creation that I'm very proud of, because the village themselves takes charge. And within this, Ambika, we've ensured women leadership. 50% of all the village development committees are run by women. 50% women run the village development committee. Let me say this accurately. And there are some places where they're almost 80% run by women. So 80% of the committee is women.
Yeah. So
honestly, the vibrancy of those villages and the work that they do is outstanding. And this is not in any way to compromise the men.
Yeah.
But because I think the learning has been that the women really carry the burden of poverty. They are the ones that go to fetch water. They are the ones who go to fetch, who suffer when there's no toilet.
Yeah.
They are the ones who cannot earn a livelihood because they're spending 4 hours a day fetching water. They're not going to the toilet because wait till dark, Ambika. They wait till dark to go. So the poverty is suffered immeasurably more by women and the elder daughters. So they are your best agents of change because their need is so powerful.
And since you all have involved them in the community, they are there, whether it's decision making, whether it's understanding the problem. So the solution lies within.
They understand the problem and they are impacted by the problem. And therefore they come up with wonderful solutions themselves. And their joy, the joy that they experience with their newfound leadership, because they are now running their village, they're decision makers, perhaps for the very first time.
And also we are you're empowering them, And if I can ask you, when we're talking about, of course, you've told us that how women are impacted more than men. Why does gender inequality exist, when it comes to access to water, sanitation, and hygiene? And how can we really change this?
I think it's a really good question, because something we don't often think about, Ambika. So there are two aspects to this problem of gender inequality. It's gender bias. It's an ongoing gender bias, which we know about. But it's coupled with a very interesting factor, Ambika, which is a woman's natural and very beautiful need to nurture their families. So there's this bit of the gender bias coupled with this, which is definitely negative. And then there's this positive force of a woman's nurturing abilities. Okay, so keep this in mind when I go to the next point. In water, there are two aspects. One is getting the water, and the other is the use of water. But two factors are against the women, making it a double whammy for them. They are the ones who walk miles to fetch water. In the hot summer months, sometimes 4 hours a day, multiple times a day, sometimes to fetch water. This impacts their energy level, their ability to earn, because they have no energy left. It impacts their back and many other things sometimes. Physically, the drainage and impacts their physical health, and their ability to earn. Look how it's all linked.
Connected,
Their girls, the eldest daughter also walks with them. Okay, because one pot of water on the head is simply not enough,
Not enough for the family.
They often do.
Yeah.
So the young girl comes, she doesn't go to school. See, sometimes this is school. This is not something that they choose to do. It's forced on them. This is really poverty, Ambika, when you are not allowing, and you know, we should not think that they don't want their daughters to go to school. They really want their daughters to go to school, but they can't help it.
They don't have a choice because
they don't have
and water is a basic necessity to survive. I think
it's for life, you can't manage, right? So this is one aspect, the fetching of water.
Yeah.
Second is the usage of water. A man has the natural first right to water in the villages. We have noticed this time and again. So it's again a double whammy. Now you come to toilets. Okay, another very important factor. The decision to build a toilet in the village is made by the men because they hold the purse strings.
Yeah.
But the need is felt by the women. So when women in the village are empowered, this factor sort of evens out. Okay?
Yeah.
It evens out. And really, Ambika, what we have learned when it comes to the need for an individual household toilet. When Swades Foundation first started, everyone was building community toilets in rural India. And we, and in my mind, it is, if my mother or my grandmother was living in the village, what would I want for her?
Yeah.
I would want an individual household toilet. I would want a tap in her home, bringing clean drinking water to her home, like all of us do.
Yes.
And really, this toilet story, it really, really used to make me cry because the women get up at 4 a.m. They go in small groups to defecate outside the village. It's undignified. It is an onslaught on their health, and also they get harassed. They get harassed, they get snake bites and other kind of harassment as well. So it has a massive, massive positive impact. I remember that when we first did water and sanitation, and the next time I went to the village, the women came out to me, sort of very purposefully. I was like, oh, what have we done wrong?
You must be so happy. I mean, that's,
First I was a little nervous because they're just coming very forcefully, walking up to me, very determined. So I was wondering, and they said, now we want to ask you something. We have so much time on our hands, so much energy. What can we do? And we started forming the SHGs, the self-help groups.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So
That's why before we actually talk about the problem, I wanted to see, because the kind of work you all have done, of course, we've been working with you all for so long. But I mean, and also the whole thing that you're realizing that more than education, I think the basics is what is important. Yes. I mean, whether it's toilets, whether it's water.
If you look at it as a pyramid, at the base comes water. First is water. Then I would say toilets. Yeah. Then health and education and livelihood is the crowning glory, if you like.
But like you said, you can only earn if you have the basics, right? I mean, you only have time to earn.
You can't have a livelihood without water. You can't farm without water. You have kind of dairy or poultry. These are the traditional methods of livelihood in the village. Without
in fact, you've put it so well. I think it's also easy to understand. We really can't have a healthy India if you don't have a clean India. I think that was the link when we were talking about. And women, of course, Zarina, on our campaign, the Banega Swasth India, we are talking about breaking the gender bias. I mean, why again women bear the brunt, and even talking about this whole climate change, the crisis. What impact do we see, or do you think we are seeing on women on ground since you're working there? And is there also a gender divide when it comes to the impact of environmental crisis on women?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. And the simple answer is women are responsible for gathering the food, cooking the food, therefore firewood, gathering firewood, and for the water, right? So when climate change happens, all these factors become more difficult to access for the woman. Yeah. So the everyday life is heavily impacted by climate change. And you won't believe it. You go to a remote farm and the farmer will tell you, madam, climate change. They will use those words. They're aware of it, Yeah. And I think, as I said before, because women bear the brunt, they also come up with really innovative solutions. For example, when we did the tap in the home, the women decided to use in this village called Angrekon. They decided to use their wastewater and they grew kitchen gardens. And the kitchen gardens are so successful, not only did they feed their children, but they also sold the vegetables.
So it's a double win.
They come up with these things. Actually, we hadn't even thought of using the waste. It's just that once they're empowered, once you build that can-do attitude, they come up with beautiful ways of solving their own problems. I remember, Ambika, when we first started Swades.
Yeah.
And there was Ronnie and me, two media people. What did we know about poverty, right? So we went on a 1-year journey across India, all right? We met communities and we met government people and we met donors and we met multiple people. And we ended our journey in Dhaka, in Bangladesh. And I met Sir Faisal of BRAC.
Wow.
And he said something to, and I tell you, Ambika, he's a thorough, he recently passed away.
Yeah.
I was starstruck. I was starstruck by the work he did.
Yeah, the work.
He told me, if women can manage poverty, they can manage wealth. Because, it stuck with me. So everything we do, you empower the community equally with men and women, not to leave the men out, not at all, not under any circumstances.
It's about bridging the gap at the end.
It's about bridging the gap. It's about bringing them together. It's about making them see each other's perspectives. And I have to say that in Maharashtra, this gender bias is much less than in other parts of the country.
No, I think you're right on that, because again, you also need to educate the men. The men need to come forward and realize not just whether it's wash or water, but for everything. I think that
they're equal partners, right?
Yeah.
And we have different roles. Women perhaps have a more nurturing role.
Yeah.
Temperaments are different, fine, but they have an equal role.
We see that change happening. We've seen women even today, Zarina, in male-dominated professions doing really, really well. But a lot more needs to happen. If I can, a simple thing, what do you think about women when it comes to access to wash facilities? And do you think that can really empower, women and also help break the gender bias? And how can it also benefit the families? Because it's not just wash is not only for women, but it's also helping the families.
We believe in a holistic model of development.
Yeah.
We say there's no silver bullet to poverty alleviation. But Ambika, if I had to pick one or two things, I would pick water and toilets. I would certainly pick water. Without water, there's nothing. There's mass migration, without water. Once you put water in, and because we do it in a particular manner where the community is empowered along the way and the women are empowered along the way,
yes,
the whole community is able to come together and start solving their own problems. Mindset starts changing. So it's not just the infrastructure, Ambika.
It's
very important
holistic.
How you do it, how you teach them to work with problems, how you teach them a community just to understand water, this wash, which I really ardently believe is so critical, because it has impact on dignity of women, safety of girls. It has health issues, huge health issues.
Yes.
What is the point of doing nutrition without clean drinking water?
In fact, I was coming to that, because when you're talking about water, what are your thoughts? How can access to water actually improve the health and nutrition parameters for women and help in achieving when we're really talking about a healthy India?
Absolutely. There's no question. Look at your own home. Imagine if you opened your tap and dirty water came up and you had to drink it because you had no choice. What is the point of nutrition? Because your children would have
diarrhea, or stomach worms.
Diarrhea kills children every day. So it's all linked. That's why Swades believes in a holistic model. Okay, it's all linked. You cannot have. And one more thing, the best way to ensure clean drinking water, we use chlorination in certain cases when it's needed. Is a community-run chlorination mechanism. And as I said, 50% of those community leaders have to be women. And in many cases, it's much, much more than 50%.
So I think it's a model which...
It impacts everything. It's got a 360-degree impact.
And that's how it'll impact, right? Because at the end of the day, it's good if they make their decisions. Zarina, you all have been working this Swades Foundation. Of course, you've shared so many instances, and it's so good to hear that, what is really happening on ground. Of course, we know it's credible, and the kind of work you're doing, your passion for the cause. What are your experience and observations of the status of women's access to wash? And tell us in brief, how has the Swades Foundation impacted the lives of girls and women?
Well, we've really impacted the whole household. But as I said before, the impact is felt more. It's the felt need amongst women, and especially elder girls and the elderly also, is much, much more. You know? But in terms of just scale, we work in a 1 million geography where we have managed so far to give about 26,000 toilets, a lot with the help of Reckitt Kaiser actually. And that impacts about 1 lakh plus people, and 40,000 households with clean drinking water, which is about 2 lakhs of people. And also 200 plus schools have got that. But that's the infrastructure part. But for me, it is important. I will not say it's not important. But the first thing that should come is the mindset change, the can-do attitude, the water committees, the village committees, the women coming together, the making sure that everything is in order, making sure the maintenance is in order. Not only that, we have 1,000 plus what we call Swades Mitras, who are mainly women, who are primary healthcare givers. They are volunteers in the village, and we have trained them on WASH, and we have trained 1,000 plus schools on WASH with Reckitt Kaiser actually. And I think it's made a huge difference. And just telling them that, especially during COVID, Ambika, we did massive groundwork, changing the mindsets, educating them, and really and truly they absorb so beautifully, and they use that learning. Because unlike urban, the amount of training or activation that happens in rural communities is much less.
But they're imbibing it.
So happy, they absorb it and they use it.
So I think the whole power is about, actually, I think they're also appreciating it a lot more. They're imbibing it, putting it in their daily lives. Zarina, if I can also ask you, what is the government really doing to address the water crisis, and how, again, are women being targeted under those schemes and programs? Because you're, again, working so closely.
Yes, I think all of us at Swades really believe in two programs. Many programs of the government are very good, very important, but two are outstanding. Okay, one is the Swachh Bharat. Yes. And we were really happy when that comes, because it was sort of like a validation of our efforts. Because as I said, a lot of people were telling us to not waste money and do community toilets. And really, I refused. And everybody kept feeling that maybe we're wasting money, And then the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan came, which is an individual toilet, each home. And, so that is one which we're very, very fond of, because it's a validation of the work we've been doing since many years. I think 2005, we started our individual household toilet work, and Swachh Bharat came in 2009. And the other one is the Jaljeevan Mission. Again, tap in home. So we were like, again, we had this huge debate within Swades. And also, you won't believe, even the community resisted a tap in home initially. And and we actually didn't increase. We have a method where the community also pays a small amount to ensure their ownership and upkeep, and their ownership of the project. And we told them, you don't have to pay any more, but we must put a tap in the home. These are our two really high impact programs. But Ambika, once it's over, once hypothetically this wonderful dream is achieved, the work doesn't end.
Yes, of course.
The main thing, as I said, what we love about their programs is the bottom-up approach that they have, the community empowerment approaches, and the women-led committees that they have also in the idea that they've created. So I think these are the two really powerful and excellent programs. And at the core is community ownership. So
and these two programs affect women in every way.
Every way, including in being empowered.
Yes.
And
Zarina, like you did tell us, how you all have impacted so many people in these years, which you all have been doing some wonderful work. If I can ask you, because you're working on ground again, the problems, you're talking to women, how do you think when we talk about availability or even access to water, how can that be improved further across India, in fact?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So you've got few aspects here, okay?
Yeah.
One is you need quality of water. You really need to check your water source quality and maintain it, and sustainability of the water. See, once you have access, you have access. See, there is enough water, just not nurtured properly. We have rivers that are silted and are filthy. We don't treasure our water resources the way we should, right? But once we have it, we start treasuring it, we have it, then we need to ensure that the quality is maintained, it's not degraded. We do, there are many things that we teach our community to do to sustain their water source and to ensure the quality of the water source. It can be watershed, it's small local projects like bunds, and also cropping patterns, so important, drip irrigation, golden child, that really, it's so amazing, and it really needs to be done. And we do all of this work. Rationing in the hot months, careful usage, never to waste, kitchen gardens grown from waste, multiple things that we do. Okay, that's one aspect, the quality and sustainability. The other one is community ownership, which I've spoken about a lot. This is critical. Okay, and you know what we've found, that the communities, once we've educated them, they start doing things on their own. They build contour trenching, they do bunds, they do things on their own. It's for them, but it's very empowering. And the last point is, Ambika, it takes a community, it takes the village, it takes the world to change this. So we need to all collaborate.
Absolutely.
Communicators like yourself, NGOs like not-for-profits like myself, people like donors, generous donors, and the government. And above all, with the community in the center. The community must be in the center. And all of us working together, Ambika, can and will make a difference.
Definitely, Zarina. Actually, listening to you, speaking with you, I think, the kind of work which you guys are doing. And again, like you rightly said, it's about bringing everybody together, holistic approach. We definitely can do this together. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambika. Thank you.
That's it on the Banega Swasth India podcast this week. If you have comments, queries, or suggestions on the topic we discussed today, or issues you would like us to cover in future, to write to us on bsipodcast@ndtv.com. Remember, BSI stands for Banega Swasth India. You can also connect with us on Banega Swasth India handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and continue with the conversations through the week. Till next week, this is Ambika Singh Kama signing off. Stay healthy and stay safe.